welcome back to my channel. Thank you for watching. Today I'm going to be doing a video just answering a few questions that were asked on my uni tour, accommodation, like room tour. I got asked quite a few questions about like my halls, the place, kind of like the area that I was in. I was based in Elephant and Castle for my halls at King's, and I also got asked a few questions about my course, so I'm just gonna kind of add those ones in there. So I did first year philosophy, so there's just a few questions about how I found it, and yeah, just a few things like that. So yeah, let's get into it. So I was asked, did I move far away from home? So I live in Devon. I'm in my Devon house now. Yeah, so it was quite far. I live about 3.5 to 4, maybe a bit more if there's traffic, hours away. So that's like in the car. But on a train it really doesn't take that long. It only really takes about 2.5 to 3 hours. Depends what train you get, obviously, how many stops there are, but it's not too far. Definitely not as far as some of the other universities that I visited and looked at. I was kind of looking at going to Manchester. Obviously that's quite far away, that's a lot longer. So yeah, to answer that question, I didn't move too far away from home. I was still able to kind of like come down at weekends, because it was only a few hours on the train. My parents could just pick me up from the train station. So yeah, that was quite accessible. So I did come back not just on reading weeks, I came back sometimes on like the weekend if I really wanted to come home. The accommodation I was staying at was Julian Markham House, and it was based in Elephant and Castle in London, so south of the river. So it's a Unite students accommodation. Obviously I've done my room tour, so I will put a link below if you haven't watched that already. But that is basically how I decorated my room, how big the room was. You kind of can see it in the video. It wasn't that big, I would say. It was a little bit small, but it was quite nice, obviously quite well refurbished. I don't know if they've updated the pictures on the website yet, but the ones that they had when I looked around were not the ones that it is now, so it's definitely a lot more modern than the pictures that I saw. I would say it's quite easy to clean because everything seems kind of like that kind of plasticky material, so your kind of desk would be that plastic. The floor was like laminate, so that's quite easy to clean, and the shelvings were the same. There wasn't much in the room other than that, not much floor space, and the bathroom was really small, as you can tell in my video. But it was fine for what it was, and compared to quite a lot of the other accommodations that I saw for King's, it was like obviously in my price range, so affordable, not too far from all of the King's like buildings, because obviously the university is spread out amongst the city. So yeah, it was perfect for that, and I just thought it was fairly modern, and yeah, not too grotty for a first year accommodation. So how much did it cost? My accommodation was £275 per week. There was no accommodation at King's which included catering, so all of their accommodations are self-catered. So yeah, it is a bit steep. Obviously you're in the centre of London, so it is kind of around what you expect for uni accommodation, especially because they do try and rip off students. It's really hard to find cheaper like accommodation, which is within kind of like the central area. I was within walking distance to like all of the campuses, so yeah, I didn't really have much to complain about. For my accommodation, I was actually able to do the King's Affordable Accommodation Scheme, which is called CAS. Basically, I applied for this before the 31st of May, which is like the deadline, so I think it's obviously been the deadline now, but I'll just explain it to you. So what it is there's like about 1,300 rooms available for King's students. Most of them are for first years, and there's kind of like allocations of how many like will be like home students, how many will be like international. It's kind of like a scheme where if your parents earn under a certain amount of money, then you can apply for this scheme. You kind of just need to write a personal statement just saying kind of like why you're worried, maybe like financially, about going to university, and if you're worried about like the accommodation fees, if you're worried that you won't be able to have enough money for actually living on top of accommodation. So you're kind of just in a position where you might need that extra financial help. So yeah, I was able to apply for that, which was really great. So I actually managed to get my room, which would be £275 per week. I got it for £169, which is actually quite a massive chunk of how much it was obviously it's available to other students for. So definitely check that out if you're thinking of going to King's and you're really worried about accommodation prices, because I was really worried. I actually took a gap year because well, not just because of this, but I took a gap year, but I had applied to go to King's the year before. But I applied for accommodation and I got my kind of like second or third choice. I didn't get the one that I really wanted, which was obviously the cheapest, and it was way over like my student finance budget. Like I couldn't have afforded it. I think it was around £13,000 for the whole year just for that accommodation, and my student finance loan was only 11,500, I don't know, it was something like that. So basically I didn't have enough money at all to cover my accommodation, let alone any living costs, which was hard, and I was too worried about starting university and not being able to afford it. So yeah, I took a year out kind of to help myself save a bit of money for uni, because obviously I knew that I would have extra costs that I wouldn't be able to afford with my loan. And also I wanted to be able to apply for the CAS scheme because I hadn't applied for it the year before because I didn't know about it, and once I did know, it was too late, so I applied after the deadline and therefore I didn't get accepted for that one. So then I've got another question about what is it like living in Elephant and Castle. So it is obviously a little bit dangerous, but everywhere in London is going to be dangerous. There is going to be crime wherever you are. So I wasn't too worried. I was always with friends. I very rarely came home at night without a friend. So I would definitely suggest that. Going out is fine. You just have to be wary, just be vigilant. I would say like just make sure that you've got a few friends with you. Don't talk to strangers, obviously. And it's just being like aware. I mean, the thing is, you obviously can't predict what's going to happen, so there is always that worry, but you can be more vigilant and you can put things in place so that you're not in a position where anything bad could happen to you. For instance, there are a few like shortcuts to go back to the accommodation at Julian Markham. There's a few like back street kind of like shortcuts, and I would probably do that in the day. That's absolutely fine. But I definitely wouldn't take them at night. I would take the main road on in the night because there's more people about, and so if anything was to happen to you, there would be people around that you could obviously shout to, or it would just be a lot more like you'd feel a lot more safer if you weren't just going in like a back street. Other than that, Elephant Castle was absolutely fine. You're so close to the train station, so you can go on the Bakerloo and the Northern Line, so that's really good. You're also super close to the shopping centre, which is kind of like attached to the train station. I think something's happening with like maybe knocking it down, but at the moment it's still up there. And the shopping centre is a bit grotty, but it has got loads of shops in. So you've got like an Iceland, a Poundland, you've got Greg's. There's a homeware store, so if you forgot anything important for uni, there's a homeware store in there which you can go to, and it's really cheap. I've got like a few of my kitchenware things from there. There's a Boots, a Superdrug, the Card Factory, there's some charity shops. There's actually quite a lot in the shopping centre. It is not that nice to go in, but yeah, the shops are absolutely fine. There's a Sainsbury's nearby, which is the one that I usually went to for my groceries. There's a Co-op in the shopping centre. Also nearby there was a McDonald's, which was up the road. It was literally only about less than 10-minute walk, probably only like 5 if you kind of walked fast, and that was open 24 hours, so obviously after a night out that was quite good to go back to if you like that sort of thing. We also had an Argos near us, Morrison's, and plenty of like market kind of shops and things nearby. For area wise, Elephant and Castle was great. There were so many shops around. The only really annoying thing for living at Julian Markham House is that you're on a main road with loads of roundabouts nearby, obviously because of the station. So it is quite loud. The windows are double glazed, so they can keep a lot of the sound out. But you definitely just get used to it. You're going to have noise in London wherever you are. You just happen to have quite a lot of ambulance and police vehicles go down the main high street. So yeah, definitely be cautious if you can't sleep very well at night, like get earplugs, because I know a few people who got them and that was really important for them. I did manage to go to sleep with sound eventually, but it definitely was a big change from Devon. And I also got asked about the social life. So I'm kind of going to talk about the social life about Julian Markham and also just at King's in general. So the social life at Julian Markham, I would say they organise quite a few events for when you first get there for freshers. So they'll organise things like a pizza night, there'll be some like scavenger hunts and things like that. I didn't do all of the events, but I managed to make friends with my flatmates quite quickly. So it's a really good way to meet new people if you do any of those activities. I think there was some pub crawls and things like that they organise for you. So the ambassadors will be living in the halls with you. They'll probably be second years or third years, and they'll be organising some of the events for like the first week at freshers, and they'll also probably organise some things within the weeks later on. So we had an art night. I think there were a few movie nights, and they just happen in our halls. You can invite people from other halls, but it's mainly just for your building, and they're quite fun. We did some of the art nights, like clay making, painting, just different things to kind of like meet new people or go down with your flatmates, or just with your friends. I would say that there aren't too many social events, kind of like clubbing events. that are organised for you. So definitely you would kind of make those plans for yourself. There's lots of freshers things obviously around freshers week, but they're for like all of the London universities. There's not much that's specific for King's. There is like a kind of wristband thing, but most people at freshers just get a few different events that they're interested in the week, and then you kind of just go along with the ones that your friends are going to. So don't be too worried about buying stuff really early on. I bought a few of the things early on. I bought a wristband which I didn't use for the 3rd week because I wasn't like still going out in the 3rd week of freshers. I was like tired. There was also quite a few just little events that I'd bought tickets for, so a few of them I was able to resell, which is really good. So I got my money back basically. And then a few other things I did go to, because it just depends on like what other people are doing and what friends you've made and like where they're going. So don't be too stressed about buying tickets early, because you can always buy tickets off other people. There's going to be loads of tickets kind of like selling, people selling tickets if their friends aren't going and they've already bought tickets. So just don't feel like stressed too much about freshers. For King's, most of their events were kind of like, so there's sports night on a Wednesday night. That's usually at Guy's Bar. They do sports night at the Vault 2, which is at the Strand campus, and Guy's Bar is at Guy's campus. So but most people go to Guy's, so there's loads of like big queues. You have to get there really early. But yeah, those are pretty big. And people often go to Dover Castle on a Friday night, but other than that you mainly just plan stuff with your friends. So it depends on like what they like to do. Obviously London is so huge and you've got such a choice of clubs and bars and just like anything you can do basically. Like I've been to a comedy night with some friends. There's obviously like soul clubs that I know people have gone to. Obviously a normal night out, I don't know if that's normal, but like pop music, Ministry of Sound is only a 10-minute walk away from Julian Markham House, so you're really close if you like that kind of music. There's also, obviously, if you're interested in like techno raves, there's loads of raves around, loads of places to go for that. One of my flatmates was really into techno, so I went to a few of those. Yeah, they're quite fun, but they're not what I do all the time. And obviously because you're so central, it's so easy to get to like all of the clubs and to get home from them. I would say most of the time I took the tube to the clubs or the bus, mostly the tube though, and a lot of the time I would get the night bus back, because they run all the time and they're cheaper than a taxi, but sometimes I would get an Uber obviously. So I've also been asked what it's like commuting for lectures and seminars from my accommodation. So obviously I was at Elephant and Castle, that's south of the river, and my university was at the Strand campus, so it's just on like north of the river, like literally just north, it's just on the river. I would say it wasn't too bad. So the commute was 40 minutes walk. That was sometimes a bit difficult if it was raining and if I just wasn't in the mood, and obviously for 9 a.m. it just wasn't fun. So sometimes I would get the bus because I didn't really like the tube. I just didn't like the tube that much anyway, but I definitely didn't like it on like rush hours. So I would often walk, and if not a walk, I would take the bus. And the bus was only like 20 minutes. A few people from my accommodation cycled in, and that only took them like 15-20 minutes. So yeah, there's lots of options for commuting in. I didn't find it too difficult because I like walking, and the scenery was really nice. You got to walk over Waterloo Bridge and you just got quite nice like view in the morning and evening. Okay, now I'm going to be talking about the course. So if you were only interested about the other stuff, about the accommodation and Julian Markham House, then I suggest you probably leave now because this won't be that interesting. But yeah, this is just about my course at King's. I was there to study philosophy, and obviously I've just kind of had my first year. I have left university now. It was a hard decision to make, but a few things have cropped up, and like personal issues and things like that, which is why I've decided to withdraw from the course. So I will explain how I found the course, but it probably won't, like, it'll probably be a bit biased on the fact that I didn't enjoy it that much. So if you want someone's opinion who really enjoyed the course, yeah, it just wasn't me. So but I will try and give you my honest opinion, and I hope that it helps a little bit. So to start off with, I'm just going to be talking a bit about like admission. So yeah, I'm going to be talking about my grades. For A-level, I was predicted 3 A's, and for King's, that is exactly what I needed to get in to do philosophy BA. My subjects I took were art, psychology and religious studies. So my results day was 2018, and what happened was I woke up in the morning, and you can often find out on UCAS whether you've got into the uni that you've put as your first choice or whether you've got your second choice. You can find out really early on, almost like definitely before your grades. I'm pretty sure I found out at about 8 o'clock, but I might be wrong because it was a while ago. But I logged into UCAS, found out that I got into King's and that I was accepted for my first choice, which I was really, really happy about. I did expect to get into my second choice, not my first, because although I was predicted 3 A's, I didn't think I would get them. Manchester was asking for A, B, B, which I thought was a lot more kind of likely that I might get. So I wasn't prepared to get that, which I was really kind of happy about and proud of. I then went to college to go and pick up my results. I guess I kind of assumed that I'd got 3 A's at this point because I'd got in without any kind of appeal. Actually for my results I got A, B, so I got the B in psychology. I was obviously super happy with those results, but I didn't get the results that King's had asked. So I would say obviously don't feel too stressed about your results being exactly what King's wants. For my course, I don't think that there were too many applicants, that it was overwhelming and that they couldn't have accepted me if I got a lower. But it just depends on the course, I suppose. So if you're maybe studying medicine, it might be a bit of a different story. But for the one that I was doing, I got in without having to do anything. I think that there are a few people who maybe haven't got their grades that they wanted and they were able to call up the university and maybe appeal that way and still be accepted into the university, or maybe get a deferred place or deferred offer if they were to ask. So don't feel disheartened if you don't get your results. Just kind of feel like, okay, what do I need to do now? Is there a way that I can call them? Or if not, and you're absolutely fine with it and you're happy to do your second choice, then that's fine. But even if you go into clearing, like there's plenty of great, like literally really good universities that are offering courses, and you still might be able to get into. So just don't feel disheartened. You can always reapply the year after with more experience and more like life experience. You could do work, you could do travelling, volunteering, and all of those things will really help when you start writing a personal statement, because you've got more things to write about and you're a different candidate to other people, so you've got different kind of like skills and life experiences. Now I'm just going to be talking a bit about the course. The course at King's for philosophy was very, I would say, challenging. Obviously for me, I didn't enjoy it that much, but I do know a few people who find it absolutely fine. I would say definitely make sure that you look at the course modules for each of the universities that you're applying to, because the philosophy is actually one of those ones where I assumed that it would be the same at each university. I just didn't know that they would be so different. I've looked at other universities since and have noticed their first year would be more of what I expected it to be like. So I kind of expected a lot more ethics, but at King's I didn't feel like I got what I expected. The course actually consists of 8 modules which you don't get to choose in the first year, so they're all compulsory modules. So for the first term, the compulsory modules were elementary logic, which is super difficult if you're not into like maths or physics or anything with like kind of symbols. So I will just show you a few kind of things of what we did, like this. With kind of things like truth tables, just things that I just didn't understand or I didn't enjoy. I actually found this really difficult. It's definitely something which like you should be aware of before you take it. I think that other universities do maybe do this, but not as much in depth. It was really difficult, and I felt that maybe King's was quite academic in this sense. It was very mathsy and very confusing. So yeah, maybe that was just me. I didn't really understand, and I felt quite out of my depth because I haven't done maths for so long. I didn't take maths at A-level obviously, and my GCSEs were quite a long time ago, so I just felt that I didn't know like the basic stuff to kind of like progress and understand it, but maybe that was just me. So we also did Greek philosophy. That was quite interesting. I didn't mind that. Obviously there were a few things that were a bit like boring. I would say the slides that the lecturer used were quite like detailed. There was too much information on each one, and often I would just use the information from the slides and just re-look at it at home because it was all kind of like fast-paced. But the actual content was quite interesting for Greek philosophy, so I did quite enjoy that, but I guess it also just depends on what you enjoy as well. Epistemology I didn't really like very much. I might have been the lecturer, but I found it quite boring. That might just be my opinion. And ethics was our other one. So we did elementary logic, Greek philosophy, epistemology and ethics in the first term. Ethics is the only thing I really wanted. I was really excited for, and I did really enjoy like reading all the articles. I really enjoyed the readings for that compared to any of the other modules that I did, and I was able to kind of read a bit more in depth, do my own research and things like that. The only thing is about ethics is that the lecturer that we had went off topic quite a lot. The lectures were quite like confusing, I would say, so that put me off a bit. I definitely enjoyed ethics the most, but obviously I don't know if you'll have this, if the lectures are the same every year kind of things, but it was very like confusing. It's on a he would do them on a written whiteboard compared to some other lecturers that would do them on PowerPoint slides, and his writing was really tiny, so often you wouldn't get a seat at the front or near the front, and if you're right at the back of the lecture hall, there was like over 100 people there. You really can't see anything. So yeah, that was quite annoying and stressful. And then for semester 2, we had political philosophy, modern philosophy, methodology, and metaphysics. I would say I didn't really enjoy any of these very much. It definitely depends if you enjoy those kind of things. Political philosophy was quite interesting. We had a really good lecturer who was really enthusiastic, and the information was quite clear. But personally, I'm not that interested in politics, and I just didn't really enjoy the subjects. But I enjoyed the lectures, if you understand what I mean. I really enjoyed kind of like her passion towards it. I just didn't enjoy the readings and anything like that. Modern philosophy was okay. I'd already kind of researched and learnt a bit about it at school, so there was a bit that I already knew, which was good. However, the lectures were quite boring and long, and often so the reading kind of article part would just be what would be in our next lecture. So he would basically just be reading off his readings for the lecture, so it just felt like, I don't know, a bit pointless sometimes. Methodology was a bit similar to logic. It was kind of like a baby version of logic, so it was still really hard, still quite mathsy, and lots of like probability, just quite confusing. I think it was definitely a bit easier than logic, but yeah, not my favourite. I think if you're maybe doing like philosophy and maths or philosophy and physics, then logic and methodology will really kind of like help and be useful. I felt like quite out of my depth with logic and methodology. And last is metaphysics, and that was a really interesting topic, and I think the readings were quite interesting for that too. It was just a shame that our lecturer was, I think she was ill, or she just wasn't there for the actual whole of it, so we had kind of like a stand-in, and he didn't always teach metaphysics. I think he taught something else, so I found that quite annoying because it was an interesting topic, and I did enjoy the readings for that one. But yeah, that's just how my experience was. I didn't go into too much depth onto like the actual things we studied in the modules, but I kind of explained how I found like the lecturers. So yeah, I hope that was helpful. I'm not really sure if it was or not. I don't know if you'd have the same lecturers that I had, but that was my experience, and I didn't really enjoy philosophy, so that is why I've actually left. But yeah, if you have any questions about anything on philosophy or the accommodation, please comment below or message me privately, and I hope I'll be able to answer them for you. Thank you for watching anyway, and I hope this was kind of helpful. And yeah, just let me know if I can answer any more questions, or if there's any kind of like videos that you'd like me to upload, and maybe give you more information on. Please like the video and subscribe if you haven't already. Thank you for watching.